How's it hanging, YouTube? Peter here, your Ginger Jolly Geek. Welcome back to the channel for a quick rundown of the new Across the Spider-Verse movie. Really interesting film. We've got lots to talk about. So I can't do it alone. Let's bring in my usual best buds. We've got James T. How you doing?
Ew.
Ew, indeed. So you're a big fan of, well, we'll get into that in a bit, but you've seen the movie at least.
I have seen.
You've seen the movie.
I've
That's
seen
always a
this
good
movie.
start.
Yes.
Always a good start for a movie review show that you've actually watched it, yeah?
Yeah.
And you've been to see Transformers today as well, haven't you?
I did. I quite liked it. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll talk about that on another show. I'm sure in the next week or so. Anyway. Yeah. But thumbs up for me.
Yeah. We might do another show. You know, I mean, I don't like to try and do too many lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I dare say we'll be doing a Flash one and a Transformers one coming up. Next, we've got our bestest bud from America, Efren. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, guys. Oh, what is going on, Comic Book Familia? I can't wait till we talk about this movie. Oh, my gosh.
You forgot yourself there for a second, didn't you?
Yeah.
You forgot your trademark intro for a second there, didn't you?
Yeah.
So I tell you what, we'll do it again. We'll do it again.
It's a good choice.
And we've got our bestest friend from across the seas, Efren.
What is going on, Comic Book Familia? I'm with my best buds. I love being on with you guys all the time, and Hydra when he's coming up next, and I can't wait to talk about this movie.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Thank you for joining, Efren. Always love seeing you. And finally, we have got the main man himself. We've got the Hydra. Nice to see you, Luke. How are you?
Ayo, Comic Book Familia.
Oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did. Look, James, I'm not sure if James is frozen or if he's just full of rage.
I was frozen. I didn't even see what you did there. It just went blank. My computer just shot itself for 10 seconds. Like, I'm so sorry. I'll watch it on the replay. So
yeah, you stole your intro and Efren's intro, and your face looking under. But yeah, nice, good. And Luke, you've obviously been to see this movie.
I have, yes. I very rarely get to go out to the cinema, but I've seen this one.
Yeah, because you're a big Spider-Man fan, aren't you? So
yeah.
I knew this one would be on your list. Right, guys, quickly jump into the chat, see who we've got in the comments. We've got good old StreamYard. Thank you very much for joining. We've got Fuzzy, Lord of the Dunlops. Let's have it. Yeah, Fuzzy. I know I've said it before, but I'm loving your new logo, mate. Fuzzy, not seen it. Oh, good. Yeah, just here to cheerlead capacity and for entertainment. Good man. That's what we want. We've got Sean. Thank you for joining, Sean. We've got Noble Young. Thank you very much for joining. Fuzzy's on about the intro. Flawless. Absolutely, mate. We're professionals here. We're professionals. And we've got Andy from Perpetual Comics. Got it straight out there. Oi. Nice to see you, Andy. Okay, guys, let's crack on because we've got lots to get through. And I do want to finish well on time because as soon as this show is finished, I encourage you to head over to the Killer Comic Show at 9 o'clock. So it's their comeback show. They've been off for a few weeks. So please do make sure you get over to them as soon as we're finished. And we will finish on time by 9 o'clock. Okay, goes without saying, spoilers ahead. We are going to kind of unpick this movie in a little bit of detail. So if you haven't seen it, I hope you don't mind spoilers because there can be a few of them. Right, let's start off with this. This is obviously the first movie into the Spider-Verse. And the reason I put this up first is because I think it's fair to compare Across the Spider-Verse to Into the Spider-Verse in terms of quality and preference and things like that. And I think as we'll go through the show tonight, and this kind of goes for the general kind of media and consensus as well, there are going to be people, Efren, who absolutely gush about this movie, who think it's the best thing they've ever seen, I would imagine. And I'm comparing my love for it to this movie, which for me was a solid 10 out of 10. I absolutely love Into the Spider-Verse. I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. So just before we get started, very briefly, guys, thoughts on Into the Spider-Verse. We'll start with you, James. Where does this movie sit in your kind of hierarchy of favorites?
Right up at the tippy top. I think it's near flawless. It was so refreshing at the time, like very unique, both as an animated movie and a Spider-Man movie, and just a superhero movie in general. So yeah, the surprise of this movie was like really incredible at the time, and yeah, I absolutely adore it. It's a really great kind of coming of age story.
Yeah, good stuff. If you were to score it out of 10,
10, easy.
Good. I agree. We're in agreement, James. Efren, how about yourself?
Guys, when I seen this movie, I thought it was just okay, to be honest with you. Something about it just didn't click with me for some reason. I didn't like the way they drew the Kingpin. That bugged me, you know.
Mhm.
And I love the characters, but I thought it was just an okay movie, and I was surprised that it won an Oscar, you know, for animated, you know,
Wow.
movie.
Okay.
So it just surprised. I thought it was okay. I give it a 7. You know,
7 out
Yeah.
of 10.
I thought it just didn't,
Wow.
you know, not like the movie we're going to talk about. It just didn't stick with me. You know, I've only seen it once. Maybe I should revisit it and, you know,
Yeah.
see if my opinion changes. You know.
Yeah, I think you should revisit
Yeah.
that from because you're wrong. Okay, yeah. Moving on. Just quickly before we go to Luke, will it be a top 10 movie contender for James? Yeah. And I love you, Efren, but you're wrong.
Thank you.
Luke, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, Efren's not often wrong, but he is. You know, today he's wrong. All jokes aside, this is my favorite comic book movie by far. And this is probably a contender for one of my favorite movies of all time. I think this movie, like you say, was perfect. It's 10 out of 10.
Efren, you've upset James so much he's jumped off the screen.
Yes, my hands were here. I didn't block them off or anything, so it's not me.
Yeah, no, I agree, Luke. Excuse me. I agree, mate. I think you're bang on. But we're here tonight to talk about this across the Spider-Verse. And what I want to do, guys, because I do want to keep it to time, is we're going to start off now with each of us just kind of giving our general thoughts on the movie and then giving it a score out of 10. We're then I'm not going to do scene by scene. So if there are particular scenes you want to talk about, you'll have to squeeze it in. But what we're all going to do instead is look at individual characters and their appearances in the movies and what we thought of them. A little bit about the cameos, and then what we want to see in the future for Beyond the Spider-Verse. So, God, what's James saying? Can you send me the StreamYard link so I can go on my phone? Can it, James? I'm in the middle of doing a show, mate. Don't know if you noticed. I'll try when someone's talking, James. So we'll start with you, Efren. Give us an overview of your thoughts on this movie and then a score at the end of it.
I love this movie. The minute I sat down, for some reason, this movie just clicked with me, and I just was so enthralled. I didn't even notice that 2 hours had gone by. I mean, I love the way they introduced at the beginning of the movie, like the first 10 or 15 minutes had nothing to do with Miles at all. You know, I thought, well, that's unique. You know, he's the main, you know, character in this, but they didn't have him on there. It began with Spider-Gwen and, you know, I'm spoiling, I'm sorry, with Jessica, Spider-Woman in the motorcycle, and Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. It began there, and they, a vulture, like from, I don't know, years gone by, you know, came and it was destroying a museum in New York. And from that point on, I was like, oh my God, this is such a good movie. I mean, I just really got into it. You know, the artwork, the dialogue, you know, the screenplay people who made this movie, and props to them. I thought it was a well done movie throughout. I love Spider-Man has to have humor, and it did. And then it started introducing Miles and, you know, what's been going on with him and his parents, the whole dynamic. I love that also. And I love the fight scenes, and I love all the spider people, animals, mechanical spider, you know, the car was showed up. Then they had live action, you know, people, you know, like Danny Glover showed up as the Prowler, and they were bits and pieces of the original Spider-Man movies. They showed them. I thought it was such a well done movie. I just made a video today, just came out, and this is my favorite superhero movie of all time. It has replaced Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I'm going to see this movie again. My daughter's coming back into town, and I'm definitely going to see this movie again. I love it, you know. Okay. I give it a 10 out of 10.
That's interesting, Efren. That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay, Luke, what about your thoughts?
Again, Efren's wrong, but it's so hard to understand and get my head around it. No, just joking. I'm torn with this movie, really torn. I like to kind of set my expectations before going to see a film. Like, I don't let other people and the hype around things kind of affect me. I want to make the decisions for myself. But people were coming out with, oh, this is like the best movie of all time, the best I've ever seen. Saying that it's just saying it's superb. And I feel like it was good, but it wasn't what people were making it out to be. This is very much a part 2. This is very much an unfinished story. It was very entertaining while I was watching it, don't get me wrong. And I do enjoy these cameos, although I've got a few questions about some of that stuff, more to do with how they're merging the different styles. Just overall, it wasn't what people were saying it was, and I still disagree now when I hear people saying how brilliant this is. I don't quite get it, and I'm really confused how Efren can like this one more than the first.
Yeah.
And that's not me going against your opinion, Efren. You're completely entitled to that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the strongest parts of this movie were the parts that were more like the first, rather than the additional stuff that they put in. But then that's why we're here. We're here to have this.
Yeah.
Entertainment-wise, like I say, all the way through, really enjoyed it. I'd give it probably a 7. So I'm probably the opposite way around.
So you're the
Efren
exact opposite of Efren.
It's not a
That's
bad movie, not a bad movie at all. But I think there are a lot of things that they could have done better. And I think that unless they're going to reveal something more in the third movie, I'm not too sure about certain character choices in this one. But we can go into that later in the video.
Okay.
Quick question. Do you think the animation is better in the second movie than the first? Because that's what I do. I got to watch number 1 again.
Okay.
Grab my attention that much.
So it's really interesting. This is kind of one of the good reasons of doing the show. There's such a variety. So some people are saying 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10, better than the first one. And then there's also a mix of people saying actually not as good as the first one. I'm going to give my view before we move on to James. But Efren, just before we do move on, Andy's appreciating your hair, mate. So it's nice. It's the heat over there. It's nice. I'm going to start off, Efren, with your comment there about the animation, and did I think the animation in this one was better or worse than the first one? I love the art style. I love the different styles of Spider-Man, the different kind of ways they've rendered the characters and stuff like that. But I would be lying if I said it didn't hurt my head at times. And one of the things that I think I've heard quoted a while from a few people is that I was kind of visually battered by the end of this movie. My head was hurting because I couldn't keep up with what was happening in all the different styles and trying to focus on the Spider-Man and stuff like that. Okay. This is a good movie. In my view, this is a very good movie. I did enjoy it. It kept us entertained. But I was a little bit disappointed. I came out of it feeling a little bit let down. I could have done without the cameos. The cameos were nice in terms of the live action cameos. The cameos were nice, but they weren't particularly characters that it didn't give us the wow effect. Had I had a Toby or a Tom Holland on there, I would have probably jumped off my seat. But the cameos we got didn't necessarily blow us away. I thought the first movie was far superior. I did like the heart of this. I did like the characters. It was fun. And I will definitely watch this multiple times. I know I will. And I'll watch it at home on freeze frame, trying to kind of where's Wally it and try and pick out who all the different characters are and all that kind of stuff. But in a cinema kind of experience, I found that really hard to try and focus on what was happening. But that said, I'm being negative. I did enjoy it. It is a good movie. I'm with Luke. I don't think it's the movie to beat all of the movies that seems to be kind of going on the internet. I gave the first one a 10. I would probably give this one an 8, I think. But overall, an enjoyable movie, I think. James T, what about yourself, sir?
I didn't like it.
Jesus, man. I'll see you guys later.
I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
I thought it was fantastic, just visually absolutely beautiful. You can tell why this movie took 5 years to make, because it's just impressive to just look at. I quite like the story. I thought even it didn't even need the multiverse stuff. Just the stuff with Miles and his family and his kind of struggle was engaging enough. And look at the opening with Gwen, incredible as well. That like is deserving of its own movie. But I love the multiverse stuff, and I love how it kind of tied into the other Spider-Man movies in like an interesting way. One cameo particularly I absolutely loved. Unfortunately, I had it spoiled going in, but I just love that it's there, not even. I would say the first movie I think still is the top one for me, but there's not even like a shred of disappointment with me for this.
To score, James, what would you give it out of 10?
It's a 9.5, I'd say.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff. Okay, just jumping into the comments again. Maybe, Phil. Maybe. Sat in the front of an IMAX. I left like I was on shrooms. Yeah, absolutely, Andy. I think that's part of my problem with it, I guess. Emmons World of Geek. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for joining. Give this movie a 9.6, only on account it's part 1 of 2. I reserve the right to adjust the score based on the second. Yeah, I think that's very fair. If Across the Spider-Verse is a hit, it's because of the event from this movie. I'll happily raise it to a 9.9, even a 10. Good stuff. Andy, just from friend energy on Facebook, Peter. I didn't even realize you were on Facebook as my friend, Andy. And that must be about the 6th or 7th time we've done that this week, surely. This one gets a 9.4. This is the perfect volume for James. Yeah, you're a little bit quiet, James, mate. Yeah, you are. Yeah. This sounds like the first movie, lots of bang, but not enough boom. Yeah. Is James' microphone from a Nokia 32?
I'm plugged in. I think I'll try and fix it.
Can I take this moment just to highlight something from the movie, because I didn't want to step on anyone's toes if they were going to mention it. The way that these art styles seem to be in this movie, it seems like, especially with Gwen, when we were in her world, she looked very different to when she's in Miles's world.
Yeah.
And I've had to overthink this because I've had to try and find the solution myself rather than the movie telling me this. But to me, then that didn't make sense why the live action people didn't change at all. Like they were still very much their own live action counterparts.
Because they're
live
action.
Yeah, but if we're ever going to have Miles go into a live action world, then that doesn't work. That doesn't translate because they don't change enough.
Yeah,
like physically at.
So I've had to. James, I can't hear you, so I'm going to have to talk over you because your volume is too low. But the only way that I could really think about it in my head was, well, they were put into those like amber resin cylinders.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's like their own little pocket universe within there, and that's why they still look that way. But otherwise, I couldn't. But they didn't explain that in the films. So my concern is that, say, if the third movie does indeed end with Miles coming into the real world, this film doesn't show that that's how that would be or how that would translate. I would rather them keep it all animated anyway. I don't want to see this character in live action. I think do Miles in live action by all means, but don't make this character be the version of Miles that becomes.
Yeah, you want a different Miles. You want an MCU version Miles. Fuzzy's just saying, I agree, Fuzzy. Many of the Gwen scenes and copies of our comic covers, I got that impression that the palette they were using in the Gwen start was that kind of washed out cover scene that they had from a lot of their earlier comics. And Andy, as ever, don't worry about it, Luke. Just don't stop overthinking it.
Just watch the film. Yeah, I know. Just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. Okay, guys, moving on. Sorry, Jim.
When they cross over, they like Miles in this movie is animated. So if he goes into live action, he will also be animated. Like how Vulture in this is like this weird Renaissance looking guy, and when he comes into Miles' world, or Gwen's world, he still looks like that.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point James is making. Sorry, that's the point Luke's making.
Roger Rabbit, Miles Morales in the MCU or anywhere else? Like I wouldn't.
No. When Miles comes into the MCU, we want him as an actor, not as a cartoon. And I guess that's the point you're making, Luke. That it doesn't work. That this Miles can't now cross it unless there's a change. Anyway, moving on, guys. Let's have a little look see at some of the characters, and we talked about this at the start. I think this is very much a beautiful story in regards to the relationship between Miles and Gwen. And we get that stunning kind of starter scene with Gwen where she's retelling her origin and things like that. I particularly like that. I did like what they did with the Gwen character in this movie. I thought she was very strong. Ephraim, what about yourself? Did you warm to Gwen?
Oh yeah, I love their character. The way both of them have grown up, like 2 or 3 years older. You can tell that they're older, and the interaction with Gwen's father. If he was, I know his name is, I believe he's still a captain. I'm not sure, but Captain Stacy. When he captured her and he couldn't turn off being a cop, that was so heartbreaking. You know, I was like, oh my God, you know, that dad couldn't give her a break. You know, and but yeah, I love the character a lot. You know.
Yeah, it was a heart-wrenching bit, that, wasn't it? And I have to say, I've not read a lot of Gwen Stacy comics, but I wasn't expecting that kind of initial cruelty from her dad. Do you know what I mean? I was expecting the love and father embrace kind of thing. Luke, what about yourself? What did you think?
What of the just beginning part with Gwen?
With just Gwen as a character throughout.
Yeah, no, I love Spider-Gwen. I started reading these Spider-Gwen books before I actually became a father, and the minute that I learned that I was having a little girl, I went out and bought all of these books so that she would have them for herself. So my Spider-Gwen collection, as it were, is actually going to be for my daughter. You know, I'm just looking after them. I'm just keeping them safe. But we love this character, and my daughter and I sit and watch that first movie over and over again. So seeing it all play out in this movie and seeing her backstory, I really liked. I really liked as well that in her world, these watercolors and everything changed with her emotions.
Yeah.
I thought that was really clever, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but when she has the rebond with her father, you see all this stuff kind of like the watercolors melting while they're screaming and shouting, but then it blanks out to white. And I like the idea that that's like a fresh start for them both. Yeah, you know, it's almost like clearing the palette. So I really did enjoy this. I thought Gwen's world in particular was a very interesting place to be. Yeah,
no, I agree. I didn't pick up on the palette kind of change at the end there, but yeah. And Fuzzy, you're right. That's kind of how it plays out. James, what about yourself? You a big Gwen fan?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that opening sequence was stunning to look at, and yeah, like Luke said, the changing of the color palettes depending on what's happening and how people are feeling was incredible. Worthy of its own movie. I'd really love to see that. I think it also like elaborates on things that were kind of hinted in the first one, like the whole Peter being the lizard in that version, and the stuff with the dad was incredible as well, I thought.
No, I agree. I'd watch a Spider-Gwen movie. I think she's one of my favorite characters in the movie. I think it has to be said.
Can I point out one last thing? Sorry, about Gwen, just before we forget. This movie solely relies on the idea of canon, and that certain events are canon. And if you ask me, Gwen Stacy's death is one of the biggest canon moments. And I don't think anyone online or anything has even remotely touched upon that she could die. You know, if this is going to be Miles's story, I know the whole idea is that he's got the blank piece of paper for his school report. His story hasn't been written, in which case none of this is relevant. However, if it is still relevant because this canon thing comes along with the spider bite, you know, if indeed he is going to lose his Uncle Ben character in his Uncle Aaron, and he's going to lose the police officer in his father, then he's going to lose his Gwen too. And if his Gwen happens to be from another dimension, that just happens to be the case. Again, no one's really touched upon that, but I do think the death of Gwen Stacy is probably the biggest canon event. It makes Spider-Man who he is.
Yeah, no, I agree, Luke. Because you're right. The whole death of Gwen is probably one of the biggest canon moments. I just want to mention this. Emmons mentioned this about the trans conversation that's been happening over the last few days, really. I love that it was included. And I think you can take what you want from that, whether Gwen is trans or not, I don't know. But certainly the inclusion of it, I think, was very, very powerful, and I like that. Sorry, just jumping back. Also, Across the Spider-Verse is Miles' final animated movie. Do you mean Beyond the Spider-Verse, the next one, mate? Because this isn't his last movie.
That's going to be the last one.
Yeah,
Beyond.
I think there's like a Spider-Women team-up movie as well.
Okay. GP Venom, they did make the Spot a good villain. Yeah, I just want to quickly touch on that. I loved the Spot. I loved the comedy of him. I thought he was funny. I know when the toys and everything were announced a little while ago, I wasn't overly sold on him. I thought he looked a bit weird, but actually I think it works really well. And I like the link back to the last movie as well. I just enjoyed him. Efren, how about yourself?
I enjoyed him too. At the beginning, Miles didn't give him much credit, didn't think of him as a villain, and that's what set him off basically to become a really villain. To challenge Miles. Basically go after his family. So the way he changed in the movie when he went to different worlds and he became more and more powerful. I go, well, this is a good character. I like the way they developed him, and it was voiced by Jason Schwartzman, I believe. The actor, but yeah, I really enjoyed this character. An unknown character, people don't know much about him, but he was a super villain at the end. So I like that.
Yeah, he started off quite a bumbling kind of character, didn't he? But then by the end, he was like full on super villain mode, I think. Yeah. James, what did you think?
I absolutely love him. I love how like he says in the movie, he goes from like villain of the week to this genuinely terrifying threat by the end of it. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Just visually, so much you can do with that. I think they did. Like there's a lot of gags, like where the bread starts falling out of his stomach, or he kicks his own ass. Was a funny one as well. Yeah. So yeah, just really entertaining, and I'm happy that he's carrying over into the next one as well.
Yeah, very much. And Luke.
Yeah, so I'm still not a fan of his design as far as toys go. For me, the Spot does have a face. Like I read those older books. I know that nowadays he does look like this with the single spot in the middle. But I still don't like that design. That's not my version of the Spot. I've always liked the character though, even from like the old 94 cartoon. That's where I was first introduced to him. Very interesting character and very well utilized in this movie. I had thought that maybe this was all going to play out differently. And I thought that maybe this would see Miles teaming up with this villain. Because obviously with all the other spider people able to jump through dimensions, he would need someone that could do that for him. So I went in thinking that this was going to play out totally different. And I liked that surprise. I liked seeing that this very laughable, D-list villain is actually somewhat of a threat. The guy literally has, he says it himself, the power of the Masterverse in the palm of my hand, literally quoting Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I think Emin's got a good point here, saying the Spot got the James Gunn treatment and it was fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Because I did go into this, like you say, thinking I didn't believe that he was going to be the main villain. Do you know what I mean? I thought it was going to be
a bait and switch,
a shift.
Yeah. Another one, You Hit Me With a Bagel was just a great. You go back to that first movie.
Yes. Norin's saying, interestingly here, Carnage just murdered Spot and took his powers in the comics. Interesting. I haven't caught up on that one. Guys, I'm conscious of the time, so I'm just going to keep moving on. Spider-Woman. Did we all like Spider-Woman? I thought she was a pretty interesting character. I liked the addition of the baby bump.
Yeah.
I didn't care for her in this, to be honest. I found her to be one of the less engaging characters, and I'm not really sure why. I think part of it is like you see like 29-9's motivation, and she's just sort of a henchwoman to him.
Yeah, I kind of got a protective mother for Gwen kind of thing at some point, but quite a hard protective mother. But she was all right. I would have preferred a version of Jessica Drew that I recognise more. I would have liked a kind of a black and white costume version and all the rest of it. But yeah, I thought she was canny. She was all right. Spider-Man 2099. What did you think of that? We'll start with you, Luke.
So I love this character. I really enjoyed his comic book run back in like the 90s. And I thought this was great here as well. I still very much liked him and the role that he portrayed. But I don't feel like this position was meant to be for him. And the reason why is this would make sense to be an older Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Not a Miguel O'Hara. And again, going back to the whole Jessica Drew thing, these are characters like Miles that aren't Spider-Man. They're not the same version of Spider-Man from like different universes and stuff. They have no real purpose here. The canon thing doesn't apply to them. All of that stuff is all completely different because they are different people. They're different characters, and they got their ability in different ways. I think this character would have been better being an older Peter Parker who knew more about how his story was going to play out, knew more about the other canon events, and that would be the reason why he's doing what he's doing. I don't think this fit for the character.
Did I hear him say at one point he was a vampire, or did I just dream that?
He has to,
Yes,
he has to
that's
feed
an
on
interesting-
people. Yeah,
But that never really comes into play in the movie, so I'm wondering if that's the setup for the next one.
And that's not a thing from the
Strange.
comics either, is it? He's not a vampire.
It is in the comics, yeah.
Is it?
Is
Yeah.
it?
So the proceed. So basically, he took an experimental drug because his boss got him addicted to this drug, and he took an experimental drug in order to get away from that and get manage to get away and be separated. But that experimental drug actually gave him the claws and the fangs and everything else, and turned him into the spider hero that he is. He's more spider than man, and the whole vampire
Was
thing.
that
feeding.
element introduced? That's not going back to the origins of the character, is it?
That's within the comics that I read when I was back in the 90s. I haven't read every comic, but I've certainly seen him that way. And we do catch a glimpse of him. I think it's during his backstory where he's holding someone and his teeth come out. Like
Interesting.
But I just didn't think that it needed to be him. It just didn't make sense to me that he was the one coming back to fix all this. It should have been a Peter Parker.
He's the one with the tech, isn't he? He's the one who can go to different universes. So like you need a normal Peter Parker wouldn't be able to set up all this, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, Peter Parker's a super genius. Like we've seen him do other stuff.
We saw Spider-Man 2099 kind of start this at the end of the last movie, didn't we? So I think James is right. I think he's kind of the one in the future who's come back to start helping it from unraveling, I guess you would say. It was interesting. I liked the character design. I thought he looked pretty cool. He looked sufficiently bulky and all the rest of it. But like you, Luke, I'm not sure I wanted Spider 2099 to be the kind of the dick that he was a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I would have rather that was a different character, I think. Efren, are you a fan of 2099?
More the comic book. I liked and the comic book. I did read, 2099. I thought he was a good character, Miguel O'Hara. In this one, he starts off as a good guy, and because of circumstances, what happens to him in his life, he, unfortunately, he becomes a villain. And I think Gwen Stacy realizes that this guy just wants to, anybody that gets in his way, it's his way or the highway. And no matter what, he's going to let people die to get his way. And that's why, Miles is against him, And
I think his tactics are aggressive, but it's like Civil War where you can see both arguments for this. And like, it's a very similar dilemma that Tom Holland's Spidey had in No Way Home, where it's, do you let people die to save the world?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get where he's coming from. He's just being a dick about it.
Yeah. There's one Spider character that they missed, and I'm thinking about it, they should have put in Silk in this.
Actually,
movie.
yeah, she did make it. Well, I didn't see it.
That Spider-Woman movie. She's going to be in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we get good old Peter back from the first movie. Love him. Absolutely love him. I loved the interaction with Mayday and her with our own little web shooter and all that kind of jazz. I did enjoy that bit. I would like more of him. And I think maybe this is part of my problem with my enjoyment of this movie, I guess, to a point. I did enjoy it. But I really loved the dynamic of the characters in the first movie. I liked that interaction, and I don't feel I got that in this one, really. I didn't feel that relationship. So, yeah, I love him. I'm very pleased to see him back. Anybody got anything you want to say about his reintroduction?
I love it. Go ahead, Luke.
I was just going to say, I absolutely love this character. For me, this is my Spider-Man. He is by far my favorite Spider-Man. Yeah, we can talk about the live actions all we want. Peter B. Parker in that Spider-Verse movie just nails it. It's exactly how I imagined Spider-Man would be after all those years. But I love that he got his happy ending. I love that he got back with MJ, that they've had the baby. We've seen this baby twice now within canon, as it were. We've had Mayday Parker, and then we've had Anna May Parker. Two separate characters from different universes, but still a baby of Peter. What I liked the most, though, is that we see him like over the crib, and he's reading the book of like how to get my kids to listen to me. But that's nothing to do with the baby. That's to do with Miles and like Gwen. Like he looks out for these guys as his children, and him talking to Miles in a clock tower, no less, which made me think, again, the whole Gwen Stacy thing. The way that he's talking to him and saying, you were the reason I wanted to have this child. You were the reason I wanted to be a better person. He's a great character and a great Peter Parker.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's great. James, how about you?
Yeah, great to see him back. I would agree that team was like really gold in that first movie, and so like having some of them missing here is a bit annoying. But like the next movie will cover that. But yeah, amazing character, really great performance by Jake Johnson. So yeah, it's hilarious. Great to have him back.
Yeah. And then we'll get to this. We'll get to kind of thousands, if not more, of different spider people, and animals and cars and robots. Loved it. I loved the fact that there's so many of them there, but my disappointment is still that because of my brain and my old eyes, I really struggled to unpick who was what. So all of those brilliant scenes where they're kind of running all over, and loved that scene, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff was a little bit lost on us because it was too much. But I'm very excited to get the date. I'm getting lots of feedback, guys. I don't know who that is. Just want to just pop yourselves on mute until someone wants to speak. I am looking forward to getting this on DVD or on Sky or whatever, so I can freeze frame it and kind of pick out all of those different spider people and all the rest of it, because I love them. So that kind of moves on to focus a little bit about some of the main ones that we saw. These three, the two at either side, we saw quite a bit of. The T-Rex in the middle we didn't see a lot of, but what we did see was very impactful. I'm going to come to each of you to talk a little bit about each of them, but I'm just going to start off by saying Spider-Man India is probably one of my new favorite characters. I absolutely loved his sequences and scenes, and it's done its job in that it's made us interested to go and read his comics and learn a little bit more about him. Really enjoyed that. Ephraim, we'll start with you.
I really enjoyed Spider-Punk. At the beginning, I didn't like the way they drew him, but then I started thinking, wait a minute, he's a punk. So the drawing did go well with the character. And at the end, he was like, he split because he didn't believe in what they were doing. And I think that was good, because he helped out Gwen later on. And the Spider-Man from India, I love them too. He has been I think all three of these characters have been in the comic books.
Yeah.
So, I just really enjoyed how many different type of spider people, like I said, animals, machines they can make. I think it's endless, so I thought that was very cool,
Yeah, and I think that, the starting scene with Spider-Man India, when the police captain was saved, I don't know about you guys, but I immediately thought, oh, hang on, that's not good. So I kind of was guessing what was going to be coming next to an extent. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Again, going back to Spider-Man India, when we first saw the trailer for this movie, there was little hints of like an Indian background and stuff as Miles was going through these portals. So I immediately jumped on Spider-Man India thinking, well, I'm going to buy it and I'll probably sell it. I'll probably sell it when the movie comes out and make a little bit of a profit. But actually, I sat there and I watched this, and now I'm really glad that I bought them. I'm actually going to keep them. I'm not going to sell them. It's a great character, and seeing a Spider-Man who now hasn't had to go through any of those tragedies yet. He's only been Spider-Man, I think he said, for like 2 weeks. So it's not even very long in any part of his story, or 2 years or whatever it might have been. But yeah, very, very cool character. And I especially liked as well the interaction between him and Miles, because it shows that Miles isn't as smart and witty and clever as he claims to be. When he's talking to the Spot about how you don't say the M for the ATM machine, but then he's still saying things like Tai Chi and naan bread and stuff like that. So it's just pointing it back at him. It's just throwing it back out there that he's not as, witty and clever as he makes it out to be. And, he obviously toyed with the wrong villain, with the regards to the Spot. Yeah,
tremendous. And I have to say, you're talking about having picked up the first appearances. I I've been eyeing up the Spider-Punk figure from the PlayStation universe. It's a very sexy looking figure. So yeah, James, how about you, mate?
Yeah, Spider-Punk was awesome. Different to the version I know from the comics, but like the whole like Sex Pistols kind of album cover style to him. Apparently, like every piece of him is animated at different frame rates and stuff like that. So it gives this really like incredible thing to look at, and I really liked his kind of attitude in it. The whole like Gwen, the kind of love triangle, semi-love triangle they set up between him and Miles and Gwen, where like Miles is like jealous every time his name is mentioned. That was great as well. So yeah, absolutely loved him. I really want to see his universe. Like I don't think we do really get a look at it in this, do we? But yeah, like he was fantastic. Spider-Man India was great as well. I think that's the guy. He's the taxi driver in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
So, yeah, that's him.
Right.
Just an incredible performance and just really fun. And yeah, like Spider-Man India is that one I'd read. And I think this is like a very different take on that. But like, yeah, I love the whole like my hair flows and I'm perfect and all this. Yeah, it's great, really entertaining. And just Moonbatten was just like stunning to look at as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, tremendous. And then we get this guy. I found this characterization of Ben Reilly quite interesting. I get what they were going with the kind of the art style and the ripped muscles and all that kind of stuff. But it was quite different to the Ben Reilly character that I'm used to, if you know what I mean. Luke, what do you think?
This was like old school Ben Reilly.
Yeah.
So this was very much the Ben Reilly character. He's obviously been completely abused now in comic books. Like the Ben Reilly is not the Ben Reilly that I remember. Yeah, we all joke and laugh about the Clone Saga, but it had some good stuff. And Scarlet Spider Ben Reilly, as he was back then, was actually an intriguing character. And I loved seeing this. Even the way he was like, I'm looking at the wall and now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that's exactly how the comics read. That's exactly what they were like. And a very strange time to be alive during the 90s.
Yeah. I liked his design in this. I did like his design. I thought it was pretty cool. James, you like him?
Yeah, loved him. I'd heard Andy Samberg was voicing him, so I was very curious. And this is a very different take than I was expecting. But yeah, just the fact that he looks ripped right out of a comic, and yeah, like Luke says, that's very much how comics got read in the 90s. It's like over here, there's something
Yeah.
So yeah, I love his attitude. I love how he's just seems like a dick as well. Like I think his later kind of scenes, and yeah, again, he's going to be seemingly more of a part in the third movie. So
yeah,
looking forward to that.
Efren, are you familiar with Ben Reilly?
Oh yeah, I've always considered him like an angst-ridden character. Like woe is me. Everything just always bad happens to him, and Peter, he doesn't always have the best luck, but he has better luck than Ben Parker. And I just thought it was perfect when he was like against the whatever the wall or something. He was just like complaining about his life. I was like, this is perfect for him. I started laughing. I go, that's him.
No, yeah, it was good. It was very good. And then we get the kind of the live action cameos. This one was wasted on me, I think, to be honest. I didn't, it was fine, but it didn't. Do you know when you think of a cameo, I was particularly thinking live action, and this would be something that kind of took my breath away, and it was kind of like a wow moment. This didn't. This didn't do much for me. But I might just be being a miserable old bugger. Efren, what about you? Did this wow you?
Okay, when I seen this scene, I was thinking, is this Venom's world? Because he would always go to a supermarket, and the lady there was Asian too. So I just thought this was Venom's world.
It is.
It is, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought, she was so used to seeing everything happen. So it didn't phase her at all. The whole thing that's been going on in the Venom universe with her in there. She goes, okay, basically. I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
James? I liked it, but it's literally the cheapest person you could have possibly gotten to do that, like a connection with those movies.
Yeah.
I mean, a Tom Hardy would have been a great one, or even a Jared Leto, something like that. But they went with the convenience store owners. But I like that they did it. Yeah, they could have got someone bigger, but it's just like it was a nice like connective thing. That was surprising.
I think for me, my wife didn't have a clue what was going on with this, and she's seen Venom. It was like, why is that important? And it was like, well, for me, even if you'd had Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy, just walk past frame Do you know, like what had in Deadpool when you had the X-Men kind of shut the door? They
Mhm.
were in the scene, but just have Eddie Brock walk past and kind of look confused for a second. That would have done us. Instead, we'll get this, and it just.
They
Luke,
probably could
did
have
you-
even like used a shot from Venom, like of
Yeah.
him walking past there or something, just
Yeah.
faked it, you know.
Luke, did this excite you?
No. So even at the time of watching it, I went, "Oh yeah, cool." And then afterwards, I was like, I didn't even get out of the cinema. I was just made it to the car, and I was like, the one thing that kept taking me out of this movie was the live action parts. And as fun as they are, even with the Lego side of it, it was just too far in that direction. And I get that was the point. I get that it's the multiverse and everything can be different. Even in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, we see them pass through like a paint world and an animated world at one point. I get that, but I just enjoyed the other parts so much more. And there's so much more that you can do with drawings and that style of animation and the different styles that you can do with that I would have been more than happy and completely satisfied with just that. But every time this thing happened, whether it was this scene or any of the other live action moments, I just thought back to like Roger Rabbit. I just thought like, oh, it's very, very jarring. And like, you can see that they're not interacting, at least with the different art forms. Like you look at Ben Reilly, like we were just talking about, you could still see him interacting with these characters. But when you're looking at Miles talking to live action Prowler, they might as well be looking past each other. Like it just doesn't work. It doesn't gel to me at all.
I think you're just a sourpuss, Luke, to be honest. And these were fantastic.
That's okay.
Honestly, I don't think. I think it matched really well. Like particularly this Prowler scene, that I didn't feel jarred at all. And honestly, I think there would have been complaints if there was no live action stuff in this at all. Like people would have given out about it. If there was no connective things with the other movies. So I'm happy that they're there. But yeah, this is like the best cameo in the last like 5 years. Bit of a deep cut, but I love it.
Best cameo in the last 5 years. Wow.
My favorite, anyway. Yeah, I love Donald Glover. Love Prowler. I felt like he was wasted as that character until the first Spider-Verse movie, and then I was like, oh, Prowler's actually an awesome character, and I've been looking forward to feeling like they weren't even going to have him back as that character. So just to see him here, even if this is ish, it's just like a nice thing,
Yeah. I mean, I liked seeing him. I hear what you're saying, Luke. It didn't jar us completely because I was expecting a live action cameo, I guess. It's just not the cameo I wanted, to be honest. Efren, how about you?
See if you guys know the answer to this, but in the comic books, was Miles' uncle was he also the Prowler in the comic books too, or was he not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if these two characters, when they saw each other, the live action and the animated, they knew that they were related some way, or because they look so different, they didn't even think about it.
Yeah, maybe.
I enjoyed the character. It was a quick, cameo. I thought that was pretty cool. I like it. I think they may segue with him, this actor, Danny Glover, into the Miles movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he plays Aaron. He plays this character in the Tom Holland one. So
do you remember in the Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland when he showed up as a criminal? Was that the same character?
That's same character.
It was okay.
And that's kind of the hope, isn't it? That the link in that there's already a Miles in the Tom Holland universe.
Yeah.
Because if that character, is in existence in that universe, it kind of would make you assume that Miles is there as well.
Yeah.
See, I think this was more fun because of the background to the films and the shows, and even the comics. I wasn't too thrilled just about the live action merge anyway, but when you think of Donald Glover and you think, well, Miles Morales wouldn't exist if it wasn't for him. Do you know what I mean? Like Brian Michael Bendis and everyone saw him in the Spider-Man outfit in Community, and that made them think of the idea of what if Miles Morales was a black character, so that side of it is really cool, how it all comes full circle and it has all come back round. But not many people know that, and we have to constantly remind ourselves, especially here in YouTube, that we are the minority. Most people don't know any of this information. We're the geeks, we're the nerds, we know all this stuff.
Yeah, very true. Okay, guys, trying to wrap it up now because I'm conscious of time. I think it's fair to say that we all agree this is a good movie. some would argue it's one of the best movies of all time. I think it's a. Do I think it's a good movie? Or do I think it's a great movie? I do. 8 out of 10. Is that good or is that great? What do you think?
The problem is, it's definitely a part two. It's not a
Yeah.
complete story, so we can grade it whatever we want. But this is like watching the second Star Wars. Like, unless you know all of it, the first movie was made in its entirety because they didn't know they were going to make more. Now the second movie, you will never watch this just by itself. You will always watch this and then the last one, or you will watch it as a trilogy. You will never just stand alone watch this movie.
I don't know. I watch Empire Strikes Back by itself.
Yeah.
What, and not have the urge to carry on watching?
Yeah.
Or Infinity War.
See, when if I start some,
I'll bleed too.
If I was to watch that movie, I would have to watch the third.
Well,
I think you're wrong, Luke. Right, guys, I'm just conscious of time, so just quickly moving on. Emin's just asking what everyone's grades are. We'll set at the start, maybe, but we'll quickly go through them. Efren, your grade?
One more thing before I get my grade again. To me, Spider-Man was always Peter Parker. Now it's starting to shift a little bit. I know the younger generation, I'm sure Luke's kids are going to think Peter Parker is Miles Morales. That's one they're probably going to know more about. But again, I give this a 10. I love this movie. I mean, I'm going to see it again. I really enjoyed it, so.
Yeah. Just before we move on to the scores, just like I say, just to repeat them, in the comments, just let us know if you've seen both of these movies. I just want you to say which one you think was the better movie. So Across or Into. So Into obviously being the first movie. So let us know whether you think the first movie or the second movie was the better movie. Luke, your score was
It was a 7.
7.
To go back to what Efren just said, though, about my kids thinking it would be Spider-Man would be Miles, I think if kids were reading just the comics, you could make that argument as time has gone on. But nowadays, even on like CBBC and stuff like that, the children's shows that we have here, it's all three of them. They're literally little kid versions of Peter, Miles, and Gwen, and they're all friends and they go to school. So it's very different. My kids see all three.
Nice.
Yeah. So Luke, you're a 7. Excuse me. I said an 8, but probably it's an 8.5. I think I'm going to be generous.
No, you're a 7
as we
too.
talk. I'm an 8, definitely an 8, but I'm leaning towards.
You're a 10, Peter. You will always be a 10.
My worry is, and I don't know if it's an age thing or what, but I sometimes think I need to watch movies 2 or 3 times before I can finally decide whether I like them. I hated Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness the first time I saw it. Second time, I actually thought it was a pretty good movie. James, you're a 10, is that right?
9.5. This
9.5.
delivered everything.
Lost you there, but lost you.
Cameos, Easter eggs galore. That didn't feel shoehorned.
Good stuff. Okay, what are we wanting to see in the next movie? Sorry, before we get that, just to talk about scores. Sorry, yeah, we can hear you now, mate. It's doing very well, as you can see. You all know that. You've seen the scores coming in. I think in general, people are very much enjoying this movie, which is fantastic for a comic book nerd kind of thing to see that I'm feeling a little bit more positive, guys, because we've had this, which was a great movie, and we've had what was the last superhero movie we all enjoyed? Guardians, yeah. We've had Guardians recently. I feel like we've broken the back a little bit of some of the crap that's been out there, so let's hope it continues. What are you hoping to see in the next movie? And we'll start with you, Efren. What characters are you hoping to see?
Well, at the end of this movie, they showed Gwen and her gang. I want to see them, because they're all, like her friends from the first movie. So I'm curious to see, how they're going to save Miles. And I'm curious how they're going to have to cross over to the real world, so to speak. I'm curious to see if they're going to do that at all, or is it going to be a completely different Miles? Just stop, the movie will end and then that'll be it. And then they'll bring Miles, as another Miles, not the one in the animated series. Curious to see how that happens.
Yeah, very good. Do you want to see Tom Holland or anybody in it?
In this movie, I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Luke, how about yourself?
Yeah, they already gave us the whole Chekhov's gun thing. So we've already seen the lady at school showed the blank paper saying your story hasn't been written yet. And so, like I said in the beginning, if that is truly the case and Miles isn't this big anomaly like they're saying they are because he's his own character and he's not a Peter Parker, then it doesn't really matter. It's all just going to play out however he chooses anyway, and it will be what it will be. However, if it is going to be canonical, and I'm not saying that I want to see it, then it would make sense that someone like Gwen might die in him trying to save his dad or make these changes, because a canon event always has to take place. Again, I don't want to see it. I love these characters, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
What if it's Peter B. Parker sacrifices himself to Steve?
So that was my biggest concern. So when I went in to watch it, I thought Peter B. Parker was going to die. I thought that was going to be the whole point of the film, because they're saying about a father figure like his dad, and I thought that he knew that he was going to die, and he had this plan with Miguel and everything else. And so again, I was completely off. I wasn't right at all. But the minute it opened and it was Gwen Stacy telling her story, I turned to my wife and went, "Oh shit, she's going to die." And then I couldn't get that out of my head for the whole movie.
But real quick, Luke, wasn't Peter Parker dying in Gwen's world? Wasn't that the event for her?
For her, yeah. So that is her version of Gwen. And like I'm saying, is Miles, if he does indeed need to have these canon events, his Gwen, that's his Gwen. Like, that's what I'm concerned with.
Gotcha.
Just before we move on to James, because he's having some internet trouble again. Emmons mentioned something that I did notice. The only issue with the cross was the dialogue was too low in some scenes. Absolutely. I thought the start of the movie, I quite struggled to hear what was happening.
I've heard that, I never had an issue with that.
Yeah, well, I just, so apparently I read on the internet that apparently there was a notice sent around with it all saying to the projectionists, this is the volume setting you've got to have for this movie. But a lot of theaters didn't act on it and left it. So I don't know how true that is, but yeah. James, final thoughts then. I'm just going to move you up so I can keep putting comments on. I'll put you where Luke is.
Well, for the next one, like I'd love to see some live action stuff, some more of that. The one kind of thing I wanted in terms of like a reference that we didn't get is the 90s Spider-Man show. So I'd love like
I thought we were getting that, man.
A sequence in that universe, or even just like that do and he swings by would be great. So I'm also very curious what they're setting up with the whole Miles Prowler, the Prowler version of Miles at the end of the movie, and where that's going to go. I'm very curious. So I'm pumped. 9 months away. Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm pleased you enjoyed it, mate. Okay, guys, that's our wrap up of Across the Spider-Verse. A very good film. I think everybody will agree that it's a good addition to the Spider-Man mythology. Excited to see what the next movie brings. Just quickly moving on to see what we've got coming up. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, I'm doing a toy show. Going to be looking at this week's toy news, but also I've recently totalled up all of my pre-orders. And it's ridiculous. So I'll be talking about that. So if there are any 1/6 scale geeks out there who want to join, just give us a shout. So that's 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Saturday, we've got Saturday Night Live with the usual geeky kind of news, what you've been buying, watching, and reading. And we're going to do a focus on best and worst sequels. So that should be interesting. Monday night, we've got Geeky Art Attack, and we're going to be putting ourselves through a paces to draw 80s cartoon characters. So that's going to be really interesting. If I don't get a Transformers, gentlemen, I'm kicking off. Just saying. So yeah, really looking forward to doing that one. Shout out to all the UK YouTube community. We've got This Week in Metropolis. They're getting some really interesting guests on their show. They had a computer game designer on this week. It was really interesting, so well worth checking out. We've got the Nerd Herd. They reviewed The Me You Love in the Dark last night. Interesting book. We've got the Killer Comic Show, which is starting now, so please do jump over to them. And then we've got Grey Man on a Saturday. Chaps, anything on your channels before we go? Ephraim, we'll start with you.
Let's see. I just did my giveaway. I just posted that yesterday. Congratulations to the winner. And I'm just doing shorts whenever anything grabs my attention. I'll do a quick short. I did a quick video on this movie. I posted it earlier today. Just how much I loved it, So and whatever pops in my head, I'll do a video. And I'm on Peter's channel all the time too. If you want to see me on there, so you're welcome.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Ephraim. Appreciate it, mate. James, we got anything coming up on your channel?
Yeah, but all in on Star Wars content lately. So I've been doing kind of a lot of Star Wars shorts. So they're sort of like for Star Wars fans that don't play games, stuff from the games, so like highlighting the characters and kind of like there's an alternate ending to like Revenge of the Sith, stuff like that. So that's been up on my channel. And then I have a video next week, hopefully, about EA. A look back on like EA's kind of treatment with the Star Wars license for the last 10 years in games.
Very cool. Looking forward to that one. Luke, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm back, baby. I'm doing weekly content. So yeah, I've got a video coming out tomorrow at 3 p.m. And I'm going to ask the question whether or not the future generations will know or even care who Stan Lee was. So we're asking the question about decades into the future. What will they think when they watch all the MCU movies and question who that old man is?
Okay, interesting stuff. Good stuff. Okie dokie, chaps. Thank you very much to everybody that's been watching tonight. It's been an interesting discussion. And as ever, with these kind of movie reviews, there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody's opinions and views are valid. So if you loved the movie, I'm very pleased for you. If you hated the movie, I think there's something slightly wrong there because it's not that bad. But yeah, everybody, I hope you enjoy your weekend and we'll catch you next time. Bye.